Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Bertram. Thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. We've had a lot of exciting things that have been coming up this week. Yes, a new ship is coming out tomorrow, May 4th, and it's the first ship that Cunard Line has had in 14 years, okay? And Cunard Line has been around for a long, long, long time, and the ship's name is Queen Anne. She actually arrived in Southampton. Um, and she's going to be sailing out. I think christening naming is tomorrow, May 4th, but May 2nd, just yesterday, the Queen Anne arrived in Southampton, and it's Cunard Line's first newest ship in 14 years, and it really marks a new era of luxury ocean travel. And her name, of course, is the Queen Anne, and Anne is spelled Anne, Queen Anne, and she sailed into her home port of Southampton ahead of her maiden voyages, which could be actually taking place to Lisbon on Friday. And it's actually, people don't know this, but Cunard Line's been around for a long time. It's actually the 249th ship to sail under Cunard flag, and she arrived in the city, of course, evening of April 30th, and she navigated the Southampton water for the very first time. She's accompanied by several small crafts from the local boating community too. And this luxury cruise line new ship had arrived from Italy following her handover ceremony, which took place back on April 18th in Fincantieri Shipyard, which is great. And along with the official blessing and her plaque exchange ceremony is going to take place actually today, which I didn't realize. I've got a lot of friends that are out there right now, and it's alongside the Mayflower Terminal today. And once again, too, is with Cunard Line. It's a luxury British cruise line, been around for several years. They actually started sailing back in 1840, so they have an incredible 183 years in operation. And Cunard Line is actually part of the Carnival Corporation companies. So Cunard Line is under the Carnival Corporation, and besides the Queen Anne, Cunard actually has three ships besides the Queen Anne. It's their Queen Mary II, it's their Queen Elizabeth, and of course their Queen Victoria. And of course, the fourth ship, the Queen Anne, is being actually christened and named today. So that's their fourth ship, which is great. And with Cunard Line, they their plans to sail, of course, since 1999 have been with four ships now sailing under simultaneous service too, which is great. And as mentioned, um, they just mentioned, of course, that she's actually being named and then be sailing out, I believe, tomorrow, really. But anyway, a bit more about the new Queen Anne. It's very distinctive, but still remains a classic Cunard Line ship, but very luxurious. It's their first ship, as mentioned, in 14 years, and she made a May Day debut on Wednesday with media and televisers on board. And also, it really represents a significant growth as far as Cunard Line, not just in terms of a major uplift in capacity, but also she has some new onboard concepts and some modernizations. With Cunard's capacity, this increases by 44%, and the Queen Anne accommodates 3,000 passengers on board. It's the first time since 1999 that Cunard has actually had four ships at one time. And her introduction really means that Cunard has enough tonnage now to really devote one ship, the Queen Elizabeth, to the U.S. market year-round. In the past, they've really not done that. So now, with the Queen Elizabeth, which has been around for a while, it's going to be devoted to kind of focusing on the U.S. market year-round, which is great too. Some things about the Queen Anne. And she's got, let's see, demand's been very high, of course. With Cunard Line, January was really a record month. Bookings with Cunard Line were actually up 25% from the previous high in the past 10 years. And she's got the president of Cunard Line is actually Katie McAllister, yes. She's been leading Cunard Line as president for the past 9 months, so she's relatively new, but she's worked in the cruise industry for a while. And she mentioned that we're actually seeing a stronger demand for Cunard, and it's really been the focus to make sure that demand's there to fill the ship, and of course make sure everyone is aware of her too. And she mentions that the really goal for the Queen Anne is to really preserve its quintessentially British heritage luxury experience, and then bring in some new concept for guests too. As far as innovations that are taking place on the Queen Anne, um, she has a pickleball court, 15 different restaurants, a big nod to wellness, of course, new and dynamic evening entertainment. She's got a fresh modern design, and they mentioned that Adam Jahani is the ship's creative director. A big change with the Queen Anne is actually in dining. The Queen Anne has four relatively intimately specialty restaurants. The Italian Indian restaurants. I don't know if I can spell it, I pronounce it correctly, but it's Tramonto and Os Arena. And of course, they've got some eateries that are behind the reimagined Lido buffet. And I mentioned something else. They've got a Japanese restaurant, and they've got Sir Samuel's Steakhouse, which has excellent views of the aft pool. And as far as Cunard Line's North America Vice President Commercial, Matt Gleaves, he mentions they're really excited for the ajiwa, which is their Japanese food, which is great. And they've got other new concepts, including a cabaret nightclub called Bright Light Society. Yes. So the Bright Light Society is their new cabaret-style nightclub. And some regular people that sail on Cunard Line will notice that there have been some updates as far as Cunard Line space. They've got their Golden Lion Pub, which has gotten an elevated menu thanks to celebrity chef Michel Roux. He is fantastic. He had actually worked for another cruise line years ago. I met him. Great culinary chef. But they've got some new elevated menus thanks to their working with celebrity chef Michel Roux. And they've also got, Cunard Line has also been able to expand their Britannia Club category, which is located midpoint between the line's standard cabins and also the grill's suites. And my mother 200% on the Queen Anne. So it's a popular concept too, which is great. So once again, it has a bigger restaurant, of course. It can house more people, more cabins, of course. But once again, it really kind of does some really beautiful updates too to what Cunard Line's been doing for over 80 years, okay? And as far as something else that they mentioned too is they've got their, their midship chart room, okay? And it's segmented into multiple areas, going from quite relaxed to boisterous and energetic. And it has, one is a circular bar that is dripping silvery spangles too. And so it's really good that with the Queen Anne, she's updating some really beautiful things too, which is great. And she will actually be, I think, being named today, and then be sailing out tomorrow. But once again, so exciting to have their first new ship in 14 years. And with Cunard Line's history of being around for 183 years, I think, but also this is the first time since 1999 that the Cunard Line has had 4 ships in service at once, which is great too. And focusing, I think, on the U.S. market, which is great too, because once again, when we think about Cunard Line, I had some friends long term with sailing on Cunard Line, but they were doing across the ocean type cruises too, and with their heritage, of course, really fantastic news too. So once again, that's so exciting, and I know people that actually been aboard the ship. They've shared photographs. It absolutely looks so phenomenal, but how exciting, I think. And of course, she's one of the, I mentioned before, but in 2024, we have a lot of new ships coming out, and this, of course, is one. I mentioned other ones before, too. And of course, with Queen Anne, as mentioned, the Queen is actually larger than their other 2 Queen ships. As mentioned, she is actually 1,065 feet long versus standard 65 feet for the Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria. And also, she carries about 900 more passengers, okay? And also, They have new, of course, on board the ship. They've got, of course, a top deck wellness studio. They've got restaurants, as mentioned, specializing in Italian, Japanese, Italian, Indian, and steak seafood. Also, this intimate entertainment venue called Bright Lights Society, which is great. So once again, it's kind of exciting to see this more than ever. First new ship in 14 years, and just beautiful to have 4 ships that are sailing now under Cunard Line, and they've got a great, great, great experience. And I'm so happy to see that she is not going to be sailing out, I think, officially tomorrow, which is great too. So once again, so excited about new ships because we got more coming out, of course, too. I'll be sharing about that later because I ran across a really great article. It was talking about the cruising's new kids on dock for 2024, of course. Mentioned one, Icon of the Seas, which came out, of course, in start sailing end of January, and that's one that actually has a chief dog officer. Her name is Rover, yes, and she's a golden retriever. Of course, she's not driving the ship, but she's in the bridge with the captain, but her title is chief dog officer. Also, they have a caregiver with her all the time, so she's actually out to see people too, which is great too. And just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fun thing to have on board a cruise ship. And actually, the fun thing is, what is that? The Cruise Lines International Association's conference about 2 weeks ago. I had a chance to talk to Michael Bailey, who is the president of Royal Caribbean, and which is great. And he mentioned that they actually have another Icon class ship coming out next year. It's going to be called Star of the Seas, and they're going to have another new chief dog officer. Yes, another golden retriever. Her name is going to be Sailor. So that's really kind of fun too, because once again, with Icon of Seas right now, she's offering 7-day Eastern and Western Caribbean sailings out of Miami year-round, which is great. And then, of course, they've got some other ships coming out too. I mentioned Sun Princess just debuted too, which is Princess Cruises' newest ship. That sounds great too. And of course, the Queen Anne mentioned, of course, first new ship in more than 14 years, which is great. And something else that also is fun too is with Silver Sea Cruises. They got their Silver Ray, which is going to be entering service in June. That's a sister ship to their Silver Nova. And of course, another one coming out this year later on is going to be Explorer Journeys. Their Explorer 2 is coming out this year. I think it's going to debut in August 11th. And Explorer Journeys is really a very, very luxury cruise line. Is owned by the MSC Group. MSC Group has different divisions. They got their Mediterranean Shipping Company, which is family owned. They've been around for years. They have MSC Cruises, which has been around since, I think they actually started maybe before 2000, but also they've got Explorer Journeys, which is their luxury cruise line brand. And she is really, really beautiful. I've written about the Explorer 1, which debuted last year. And the whole concept is bringing the ocean life to sea, which is great. And of course, we've got Disney, the Disney Treasure, of course, is going to be coming out. And it's their second Triton class ship. And she's offering some really, really fun things too. She'll be sailing out of Port Canaveral on 7-day Caribbean cruises too. And Viking Cruise Lines has a Viking Vela coming out. And then, of course, we've got some really fun things coming up with American Cruise Line. They're debuting another pair of ships. The American Liberty will launch in August this year, sailing cruises in New England, also chasing after the fall foliage down there, Georgia. And also they've got their American Legend, which is going to be bound for Florida Gulf Coast Keys beginning November. And the ships hold 100 guests per ship, so very, very small. But the fun thing is American Cruise Line has been around for a long time, and they actually own the company that builds their ships too, which is great too, and their family owned. Great people too, which is great. So anyway, a lot of excitement about new ships coming on board too, but I think the Queen Anne is really fun to talk about too. And then something else that came up too was actually Virgin Voyages. Their next ship, the Brilliant Lady, got delayed a bit. It's their 4th ship, but what they're doing is, it's called the Brilliant Lady, And she's going to actually debut in New York City in September 2025. And she'll be offering a variety of different itineraries from multiple home ports, including during its inaugural season, too. And in September and October of 2025, the Brent Lady is going to be offering sailing 5 cruises from 5 and 13 nights from the Manhattan Cruise Terminal in New York. They will include going to Bermuda, Canada, New England sailings, and then her ship's maiden voyage will actually depart on September 5th of 2025. And then from October 2025 to actually March 2026, the Brent Lady is going to sail on 17 voyages that are ranging between 7 and 12 nights. These Caribbean destinations include the ABC Islands, which are actually Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, plus Ocho Rios, Jamaica, Turks and Caicos, Antigua, Grand Cayman, and also Cartagena, Colombia. And then also Virgin Voyages actually has scheduled a 15-night Panama Canal crossing from Miami to Los Angeles in March of 2026. The Panama Canal cruises are ones that I know I've had friends that have done that before. It sounds really, really exciting because once again, it's a way to connect the oceans, which is great too. And so the Brilliant Lady is going to be doing that too. And then the Brilliant Lady is going to be heading to Seattle for the summer of Alaskan cruises. And they're going to share more details later on. That'll be in 2026. And there's been a really high demand, of course, for Alaskan cruises. And starting this May, actually, customers can actually submit a deposit to before the cruises open for sale. And that's going to be starting this next week, too. Also, what's great, too, is, like I said, Virgin Voyages said their signature mermaid printed on the bow will take on inspiration, too, as far as historic Renaissance paintings, too. And like I said, the Brent Lady was originally supposed to enter service in the Caribbean end of 2023, but they had to do a postponement, so now she's going to actually be debuting in 2025 in September, so that's really great too. And I've not sailed the Virgin Voyages. I've had a friend that has done that, but with Virgin Voyages, remember they have to be 18 years and older. In the past, we shared their commercials about no kids allowed. You have to be 18 years and older. What they do, though, is they got beautiful areas. They have different alternatives as far as dining. They don't have a main dining room, which is great. Different alternatives for dining as far as entertainment. One thing I get to experience, too, is besides the entertainment, a beautiful dining room, too. It's great experiences. Very small dining rooms, different choices as far as food cuisine. But one thing they have on board was on the Scarlet Lady when she actually debuted in, I think it was 2021, is they have a special ice cream parlor, but it's called Lick Me Till. And once again, with, of course, Virgin Voyages, they have to be 18 years and older. And they do some phenomenal things. And beautiful ship. I was amazed at everything they had on board the ship. And, of course, no surcharges because they have different dining options. You have to get those arranged in advance, but they don't surcharge you for those, too, which is great. So it's not going to just a main dining room and then maybe trying to do maybe a special dining room where sometimes they charge an extra fee. So once again, keep that in mind too, because the Brilliant Lady is going to be sailing out now in September 2025, and it's their 4th ship, which is great. Something else that came out too, as far as Disney Cruise Line, of course, they've got their new they're opening a new, actually, it's their private island destination in the Bahamas this June. Yes, I've been to Disney's private island before. It's gorgeous, unbelievable. I mean, what they did, but that's when they were one of the first cruise lines actually be able to dock at a private island. What they're doing is they just announced more details about their new Bahamas destination. It's a private island, okay, and it's going to be called their Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point. And what they're doing, they just made a big announcement, okay? They got a Junkanoo theme at their new Bahamas destination. And Junkanoo is actually Bahamian National Festival. So that's going to be actually at the centerpiece of Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point, which is their private destination opening in the Bahamas in June. And the celebration is going to have, of course, beautiful costumes, bright colors. Sounds like cowbells and drums. And once again, Junkanoo really is an experience you need to see firsthand, which sounds fantastic. You're taking on the rhythm and the vibrancy too. The cowbells, they're really the vibrancy too, which is great too. And I think it's really fun to think about that too, because once again, it goes back to the private islands are just gorgeous. They are just such a fun way to really, really, really enjoy your cruise, because it's where your cruise guests, you all dock there, and it's, I think, very, very safe, beautiful places, different things to do there too. And it's the second, with this Lookout Cay, it's actually Disney Cruise Line's second private destination for Disney Cruise Line. Their other island is called Castaway Cay, which opened actually in 1998, and it's beautiful. I was there too. Fantastic experience too. And with Castaway Cay, though it has more of a story of a fictional desert island, the Lookout Cay will tell stories of people and culture with the help of familiar Disney characters too, which is great. And of course, the Bahamian people, which is fantastic too. And they've been working with the National Junkanoo Committee for more than a year, developing this destination. And stories are going to be shared through parades across the islands, adventure work. Also, they've got called a Goombay Cultural Center Pavilion that introduces guests to the history, music, and costumes of Junkanoo. And guests will have an opportunity to really make their own Junkanoo headpieces to wear at Rush, the Junkanoo celebration that will parade across the island. A Junkanoo group will perform for guests and then meet up with the traditional Disney characters who are donned in their own costumes, which is great. And of course, too, is structurally the buildings have been built for big gatherings that have been inspired by local island-drawn patterns, and they're going to have hand-painted conches with palms that have expressions of local Bahamian art too. And Lookout Cay will have different activities, of course. They'll have a dance party, Bahamian games, original music, such as Rescue Rangers song mixed with the Bahamian beats. Other games will include a pineapple ring toss, a nod to the production of pineapples in the Bahamas, and hula hoops. And of course, the destination will also have some beautiful natural trails too, which is great too. And I know that Disney right now has an app about the plants and animals at Lookout Cay too, which is great too. So that's really exciting because it's going to be opening up in June of this year, so just about a month away, which is great. And it's called, once again, Lighthouse Point, and that's our private destination, which is opening course up in June this year, a month away. Okay, and as mentioned, the centerpiece at Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point will be the Junkanoo. That's their Bahamian National Festival too, so that's really fun too. I mentioned something about American Cruise Lines, and they've got also 2 new coastal ships they just announced. They got their 5th and 6th Project Blue coastal ships that are going to arrive in 2025 next year, and they mark the introduction of their Patriot class. Okay, and they are, as far as the size of the ships, they're 125 passenger sister ships. They're going to be named the American Patriot, which is coming in June of 2025, about a year away. They also have the American Pioneer, which is going to actually be debuting, coming out in November 2025. And as far as their Patriot class, they have expanded staterooms that can be ranging from 300 square feet to 620 square feet. And each stateroom has a private balcony, which is great. Also, the American Patriot, American Pioneer will each have 5 decks and 56 staterooms. And the ship's 4th decks will actually offer all suite accommodations ranging from 420 to 620 square feet. And the spacious lounges really, really bring guests a way to really, I think, unwind and socialize with different people, with really, really fun things to do too, because they'll be sailing on the East Coast, which is great too. So that was just mentioned. Also, both new ships will feature a main lounge and restaurant on the first deck, offering guests water views from every seat. Who doesn't like to watch the water? Also, on the 5th deck, the American Patriot, American Pioneer will offer sitting, dining, and fitness areas, including their Skywalk walking track, an indoor sky lounge, also outside sun deck and casual cafe. And these new ships will also offer a bow terrace and horizon lounge on the third deck, as well as indoor fitness center on the fourth deck. And these Patriot class ships are accommodating more passengers than their coastal cats, which they call, that's the first four Project Blue vessels. The American Eagle and American Glory were debuted in 2023, last year. And with the American Liberty and the American Legend, they're entering service this year too, which is great too. So just keep that in mind too, because once again, they offer coastal sailings. They also offer sailing, of course, in the U.S. waterways too. Plus, they have some cruises that sail the Florida Gulf Coast and the Keys too, which is great. So that's American Cruise Lines. They've been around for several years, and they actually build their own ships, and they're family owned, which is great too. As far as something that came up too, Abercrombie and Kent, which has been around for a long time, they are planning to put a river cruise ship on the Peruvian Amazon River in 2025, and this will be the first time the company is actually offering river cruises in South America. They're partnering with its sister brand, Eco Ventura, which is a yacht-based expedition cruise company that specializes in tours to the Galapagos Islands. And Abercrombie formed a partnership with them last year. So what they're doing is, it's in addition to the Peruvian Amazon, there's only a few select cruise lines that actually operate there, including Avalon Waterways, Uniworld, and also Aqua Expeditions. But really it's great too, because once again, with this new landscape in South America, it's relatively small. Most river cruise lines happening on the continental sail on the Peruvian and the Amazon, and there are companies like Avalon and Uniworld that charter vessels on the Aqua and Delphin. But once again, it's interesting to see how Abercrombie & Kent is bringing its touch to the ship, and how it pairs the experience too with experiencing existing land journeys in Peru too, which is great. And as far as the ship, they haven't given out the name of the ship yet, okay? But once again, they're in the right renderings. They've got renderings right now of the vessel. We'll have a very, very modern design. Exterior color going to be deep shade of green, cut by 2 levels of lighter wood paneling, and of course, some things they kind of mentioned. They haven't named the ship. It's going to have just 12 cabins. Yes, just 12 cabins. And they have 2 specifically for solo travelers too. And the solo cabins will have a single supplement fee, of course. Will not have a single supplement fee, of course, which is great. So if you want to go as a solo traveler, you can actually get one of those solo staterooms. There are 2 on this ship, and there's no extra fees, which is great. Some of the other cabins will have connecting doors, and that'd be ideal for families too. And the sun deck will provide an enclosed and outdoor areas for guest use. And look at the rainforest, wonderful waters, and beautiful things too. And also they have an outdoor swimming pool, a massage room and gym, along with lounge and of course bar areas. And right now, like I said, Abercrombie & Kent is just kind of building this up right now. I should be able to share more about this later on, because they just made this big announcement. Just came out actually May 1st. Okay, so keep that in mind too. And something else too that I want to cover a bit more today is, as far as the new ship orders to which I talked about, but once again, I had a chance to attend 2 different cruise conferences in the past couple weeks. I was at Sea Trade Cruise Global Conference that was in Miami Beach. I've been going to that for years. It's fantastic. And that was actually from April 8th into the 11th, which is fantastic. And then another conference separately is one that was done by the Cruise Lines International Association, CLIA. They do this every year. Theirs is held in Fort Lauderdale, and it's called Cruise 360. But at Cruise 360, I went to that one too. It was great because they actually had different panels. And one was actually a panel with the different cruise line executives, presidents, and Jeff Anderson of Avoya Travel. He's the co-president. He actually moderated the panel. And on the panel, they had, of course, Gus Antorcha, which is the president of Holland American Line. They've got Michael Bailey, who is president of Royal Caribbean International. They had Frank Del Rio Jr. of Oceania Cruises, David Herrera of Norwegian Cruise Line, Laura Hodges Bethchi, who's president of Slavic Cruises, John Paget, who's president of Princess Cruises, and then Ruben Rodriguez, who's president of MSC Cruises. And what they do is they kind of share different things too, as far as what they're doing, new ships, the experiences too, and what's great too is I know they share more about insights, the new ships coming out, what they're doing, and of course the new ships coming out too, and also with this cruise conference too. What they do is they have a big it's a beautiful gala night event. We recognize different people, and it's their CLIA's. They have different awards too, but one that came out that they awarded to is a beautiful gala dinner, fantastic entertainment sponsored by the cruise lines. And one of the awards was actually given to Christine Duffy. She is the president of Carnival Cruise Line, and Christine Duffy actually received CLIA's Lifetime Achievement Award, which is great. And it was great because once again, she was inducted in the Cruise Lines Hall of Fame, and it was at the Hall of Fame dinner, so it was great. And I got a chance to congratulate her personally, which is great too. But great stories with her. She's the one actually that I've written about before. I'll be writing about her again too, because once again, she actually, when she got to school, she wanted to be a flight attendant, and back in those days, she had to be a certain height and weight. Well, guess what? Christine Duffy was 2 inches too short to be a flight attendant. She's only 5'2". She had to be 5'4", so she couldn't be a flight attendant. But you know what? She took a different direction in her life, which is great. Instead, she got to work for a travel agency at the time, and then moved up into different roles. Then got into incentive travel, began working for a big travel incentive company, and he had to relocate with her family. And then in I'm trying to think what it was. I think 2013 is when she became president of the Cruise Lines International Association, because their president was going to step into something different. And then I believe she became president of Carnival Cruise Lines in 2015, and she's fantastic. Big smiles all the time, great energy. They just, of course, took on their 2 new ships, which is great and fantastic. But just, it was so great to see her actually be awarded to in this International Hall of Fame, which is great too. And such a great, energetic person. Big smiles all the time. And when she first started Carnival Cruise Line, her goal was actually to be on every one of their ships in the first year, and she did that, okay? Carnival Cruise Line actually has 27 ships now, which is great. They're building more too, and expanding into different areas too, which is great too. But for her to be inducted to the Cruise Line Hall of Fame was fantastic, and she, of course, was honored with CLIA's Lifetime Achievement Award, which is great. So fantastic. It was a great event. See people like that too, who take a different direction, which is fun too. And then something else too, we talked about last week. I want to bring more up-to-date information, because once again, we've got something special coming up this year, and the Summer Olympics in Paris. They're taking place in Paris, and of course, once again, we have a lot of river cruise lines that actually sail in the rivers and will maybe include Paris. But we talked last week about, okay, what is the procedure? Are cruise lines pulling out of there or not? Once again, these would be river cruise lines primarily. So what are cruise lines doing? Once again, Paris officials have been working very hard through the year to make sure that the city is Olympics ready. And they've got different infrastructures into place. And the Seine River course is of popular interest too, because once again, this waterway will not only host a 2-day marathon swimming event, but also the Olympics opening ceremony. And since Paris and the Seine River are a focal point for many river cruise lines, it makes sense that some river cruise lines on the Seine during the games might be a top selling point, because once again, clients can have front row seats for the opening ceremony from the comfort of their staterooms, as well as an easy access to Paris. However, I know that it's important to know how river cruise lines on the Seine River will be impacted, of course. Just for right now, too, and this came up end of December last year, but once more updates, too, is, sometimes some cruise lines weren't sure what they were going to do back then. If they'd be able to sail on the same river or dock in Paris during the event. I know that with Amadeus River Cruises, they mentioned they were still communicating back then, back in January, about French officials to see if there would be any details about docking situations too. So once again, some cruise lines, I don't know what they're doing right now too. It'd be good to check with the cruise line too, because they might not be offering that too right now. And of course, I know they mentioned that Amadeus River Cruises was planning to operate cruises on the same river during the Olympics. It just said that demand has been softened for cruise lines during this period so far because, once again, the sky hotel rates and airfare and the potential for overcrowding is likely why the line sees more softer bookings too. And on Waterways right now, they're not planning to operate any cruises on the Seine or extensions in Paris during the 2024 Olympics. Okay, they did cancel 3 weeks of sailing and cruising during the Olympics just because nobody knows what's going on too. That's what Rudy Schreiner, the president, co-founder of Waterways, had said. Normally they have book extensions, hotel extensions in Paris, but with hotel prices that are really, really very expensive, they just said they weren't going to do that. They're going to postpone it too. So once again, right now, as far as I know, Waterways is not planning to operate any cruises on the Seine River during the Paris Olympics coming up next month. Avalon Waterways mentioned they will operate river cruises on the same river as best as they can do during the Paris Olympics, but they're just right now still waiting on what they're going to be doing too. There might be more information on that later too, I'm not sure, because once again, with the Olympics, they're coming up pretty quickly too. So I think for the most part, a lot of river cruise lines that would actually sail on the same river are avoiding that, just repositioning their ships in different ways too, because once again, it just goes back to if there's availability to it also. It might be better just to pull out of that first right now. I know that another cruise line, a river cruise line, is with Tauck, and what they decided to do is back in December 2023, their approach was they are not offering any river cruises on the Seine during the Olympics. Okay. She mentioned that Jennifer Tomback, who is the president of Tauck, mentioned the company learned their lesson back in 1984 during the games in Los Angeles. She mentions back then it was really an unmitigated disaster. Hotels were very incredibly expensive. Venues that guests wanted to visit were closed or unaccessible, so the traffic was terrible. So once again, with Tauck, they're not doing anything as for river cruising. Okay. I know that with Uniworld, Boutique River Cruises, they're planning to operate some river cruises on the Seine during the Olympics, but once again, they're not really actively promoting those too, and they might have pulled out. I'm not sure. I know that with the Viking, they're continuing normal operations on the same river, but also offering some extensions. However, they mentioned they really didn't anticipate any disruptions as far as planned excursions. However, once again, it goes back to it's coming up next month anyway in June. So once again, if there are any river cruise lines available on the same river, they might be sold out. And once again, they're just being very, very careful because they don't want to have challenges coming up too. So that was one thing I want to bring up today as far as with the river cruising and also what's going on in Europe, because once again, with the Summer Olympics in Paris coming out pretty quickly, we see a lot of river cruise lines that are not offering any of their ships on the same river. They're repositioning their ships in different areas too. So keep that in mind too, because that's just, I think, kind of fun too. Just remember to mention this too. Okay. Something else about, let's see here. I think I talked about everything, but like, so once again with the Queen Anne, that's great. She'll be sailing, christening actually today, I think. I'll be sure about that more next week because I've got some business people actually invited to see the ship, which is great. And also, I don't know her name, but the Cunard Queen Anne actually has a woman captain. Yes. So we have another female captain. Can't remember what nationality she is. She's not from America, but with the Cunard line, Queen Anne, their captain is actually female. Okay, which is great too. We're seeing a lot of that too going on because I know with Celebrity Cruises, they have Captain Kate McHugh. She's still the first American woman captain of a cruise line ship. She's been working with Celebrity Cruises since 2015, which is great. And with the cruise lines, Normally, the women that book on the bridge are maybe in the cruise industry, maybe about 3%, but with Celebrity Cruises and everything they've done too, about 32% of the people working on the bridge are actually females, which is great. Of course, Captain Kate McHugh is one, but she's actually the only woman American captain of a cruise line ship, and she's fantastic. Big smiles. I met her big on social media. Fantastic, such energy too. Got a great story too, because once again, in her case, how she got and to fall in love with cruising is when she was 12 years old, she convinced her parents that they needed to take a cruise. They took a cruise and she came back and she told her dad, it was a short cruise, I think 3 or 4 nights. She came back and she told dad, okay, when I grow up, I want to be a cruise director. Her dad said, Kate, you can do anything you want to do. Kate got into the Maritime Academy. She graduated. She kept applying for jobs working for cruise lines. Of course, not to be captain yet and move up, of course. Couldn't seem to get a job, so she actually applied with the cruise line to be a bartender. But they saw her credentials, and that's what got her in the door. And after working different cruise lines in different areas, back in 2015 is when Lisa Toprolo, the president of Celebrity Cruises, asked her to be captain of one of their ships. And she's just a fantastic person, gorgeous, big on social media. She has a cat on board, and her cat is in the bridge with her too. And her cat's name is Bug. He doesn't have a lot of fur, and she's got a social media channel. It's called Bug Naked. And she's done special things with him on board the ship too, which is great. And she's very, very visible, which is great too. So definitely keep that in mind too, because once again, sometimes in the industries, people take different routes too. As mentioned, Christine Duffy being the president of Carnival Cruise Line, when she's 2 inches too short to be a flight attendant, she took a different direction, and then she's actually been with Carnival Cruise Lines for as president. My goodness, I think it was probably 2015, but my gosh, she's been president almost 9 years, which is great too. But just take a different direction. And with Captain Kate McHugh, she tried to be a bartender, get him on the ship, but worked out that she was actually hired to work on their staff and moved to being captain too, which is great too. So once again, great stories that really provide inspiration too. I'll be sharing more about that later in the future. I'm actually updating a book and including both women cruise and cruise line women and men cruise line executives right now too. A fun one too is actually with Michael Bailey, who's the president of Royal Caribbean International. Michael Bailey has a great story. His first job back in 1981, he actually was an assistant purser on Nordic Prince, which is one of Caribbean's older ships back in 1981. But once again, he moved up, becoming purser, and moved up, and he's from Great Britain. But then X many years later, and he's been president of Royal Caribbean International for several years, which is great. But like I said, to actually start working on board a cruise ship, move up, and then become president of a cruise line, that's great too. The one he actually started working on first too. So yes, the great stories too. And I'm sharing those in my new updated book, which I'll be getting out probably by this year, end of September. But I'll keep you posting that too. But in the meantime, a lot of good things going on in the cruise industry. Good ship happens. Mark, any questions for me or not? You can think of.
How you going over there? Definitely. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Have a couple of things that I was thinking about. One is that next week will be Mother's Day and all along those lines. And I did see that there were some cruise ships, including some of those the ones that you like, which are the river cruises that are doing various trips and everything. So maybe if you want something in your mind, you might want to
Yeah.
take those of you that are close to your mom on a DC trip and everything. Because I did see this one and had some pictures of it and all along those lines. But apparently, one of the cruise ships in DC is offering a Washington DC premier brunch cruise, and definitely that is something that they are offering. And I guess other cruise ships are doing the same as well. But it looks like it would be a fun event. These are some of the pictures that they have, I guess, from last year and everything. But that is what's going on, and the prices didn't look all that bad because I think they were like somewhere in the $100 range or somewhere in
Right.
that space, or at least starting in that range. So that's not too bad. And
No.
definitely, it looks like there were a lot of folks having fun and enjoying themselves and all in that space. So definitely, it was interesting that I
Yeah.
found that out when I was looking for things going on. And like I said, it is a 2 hour cruise, and they're saying that you'd be going down the Potomac River while on board. Your family will enjoy chef inspired plated entrees with a selection of wine, champagne, and of course the classic cocktails. And of course, you can celebrate with dancing and dining from their climate-controlled interior, soaked in the picturesque backdrop of Washington D.C. skyline from the outdoor deck and everything. So you can get to see some of the skyline of Washington D.C. if you decide to take place in that particular experience and all along those lines. So that was off of City Experience and everything in that space. So I think that was City Cruises out of Washington D.C. if I saw that correctly and all along those lines. But I'm sure that you've done some of these holiday specials and all along those lines. But that's something that I saw that I was wondering if you had any thoughts around these Mother's Day cruises because that will be not this Sunday, but the
Right.
following Sunday.
Okay. A lot of There are a lot of city cruises in the U.S. that was actually owned by Hornblower. I think they're separate now because Hornblower went under. Unfortunately, they had owned American Queen Voyages, but four American Queen Voyages ships were actually bought out by American Cruise Line, and then the two other ships they had were more smaller ships. But I know the gentleman actually put a bid on them too. But once again, city cruises are in different areas. They offer usually more kind of like a couple hour cruise in a city. Okay.
Yeah, so that's one of them that I saw and
Yeah.
everything. I also saw another one that I think was actually in, and I think their Mother's Day cruise was actually sold out and everything, but it looked like it was out of Iowa and everything like that. So it was, when I looked at it, it was called the Akbaja Boat Works, and it looked like it was a yacht, and their prices were real affordable. I think they were like in the $35 range. So yeah, I mean, even though we think of cruises as being overly expensive, I guess some of the river cruises have some discounts and everything. But like I said, this was out in the area of what I just said, Iowa, if I'm remembering correctly, when I looked it up and all along those lines. And like I said, they did say the Mother's Day cruise was sold out, but they did have this icebreaker cruise, and they had some other cruises as well. And like I said, it looks like an interesting kind of area where you can actually maybe not have the big cruise ships, but more of a yacht-like experience, and all along those lines. This was
Okay,
actually the
great.
Icebreaker cruise, which
One
looks
thing
like
I
it
would
is
mention
still
too is
out there and still available. But they've got sunset cruises, siesta cruises, and even the Shake the Lake cruise. I guess that
right,
means they're gonna have some partying going on as well. People get their dance on all along those lines on that small yacht as they are going down that part of the area in Iowa.
right. But one thing about these is with these city cruises, you're not staying on board the ship at night.
Hmm.
Okay, usually just for a couple hours. See different areas. They have city cruises in Chicago, but one thing too is this is not like a regular cruise. You're just on board the ship for a couple hours to see different areas. You have dinner options, whatever, dining, whatever too. But once again, you're not spending the night on the ship too, so it's different. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, that's just some of the things I had on my mind and everything. But yeah, if you're interested, we can, whenever you're ready, close out
Yeah.
with Dr. Sylvia Earle again and
That's fine.
all in that space. But that's what I had in mind for today.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll close out with that's fine. Dr. Sylvia Earle, it's great too because once again, she's working very hard with the MSC Foundation, and they're doing some updates right now with their Ocean K MSC Marine Reserve, which is a private island in the Bahamas, and it's closed right now. They're doing updates. They're going to reopen the island on May 22nd, which is great. I've written about it, just wrote about it, and doing some phenomenal things too. Once again, it goes back to what they're doing as far as sustainability. The family is privately owned, and their foundation is the MSC Foundation that's family owned too. Plus, they have MSC Cruises, plus, they got Explore Journeys. So, once again, it's a great company and just phenomenal people. So, let's close out with Dr. Sylvia Earle. Okay? Thank you.
It sounds good. And like you always say on the show, as we get ready to hear from Dr. Sylvia Earle, good ship happens. And we'll
Yes.
be hearing more about these wonderful things on next week as well. But
Yes.
right now, let's go check this out. And I do know that you've got a event going on. So you've got a friend of yours, I guess it's going to be, or relatives doing that whole jump in the broom thing. And maybe next
Yeah.
week we can talk about how sometimes those events can happen on cruise ships as well. So maybe we
You
can get to
can.
that on
You
next week
can.
because I do
Yes,
know
you
that
can
sometimes
get married on a
people
cruise ship.
decide to
Yes.
have their
Yep.
weddings on cruises as
Yep.
well.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, let's get on out of here with Sylvia Earle.
Okay, great.
I'm Dr. Sylvia Earle, a marine biologist, oceanographer, Explorer, and I'm passionate about the protection of this blue planet. I grew up next to the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico, and I've witnessed how much the ocean has changed and how marine life has been endangered. But I know there is still time to help the ocean, which is why I was drawn to the Aponte family's sustainability mission. Explorer Journeys has a genuine ambition to connect people with the wonders of the sea, its marine life, its communities, spiritually, physically, and intellectually. We share the same values and have the same objectives to deepen people's relationship with the ocean, to explore, protect, and restore. Explorer Journeys calls it the ocean state of mind, a sensibility that will ensure the protection of this precious blue planet. Through my foundation, Mission Blue, we're working on ocean conservation, inspiring hope with champions across the world. Beginning with my extraordinary role as godmother to Explorer One, we will be heralding a meaningful collaboration between myself, Mission Blue, and Explorer Journeys and the MSC Foundation towards preserving and restoring the world's oceans, the blue heart of the planet.